Hey everyone, today we're diving into a massive misconception about human focus in this explainer. You know that feeling when you try to sit down, meditate, and suddenly you feel like jumping right out of your skin? Well, you are definitely not alone. It turns out that agony, it's actually a biological truth. We're going straight to the source material today to show you exactly why that early mental friction is, honestly, the absolute best thing that could happen to you.
So, why do most people quit meditation? Usually it happens right in that very first week. You sit down, you try to be totally still, and bam, your brain suddenly feels exactly like a chaotic beehive. It's loud, it's super uncomfortable, and you're probably thinking to yourself, man, I'm just bad at this. My brain is definitely not built for peace. Well, I completely get that frustration, but I also want to validate it. The source data reveals a really fascinating perspective. That overwhelming feeling, it is not a failure on your part. It's actually a fundamental sign of progress.
Okay, let's dive into this. Think about physical exercise for a second. When you hit the gym to start a new weightlifting routine, your muscles absolutely burn, right? They flood with lactate. You wake up ridiculously sore the next day. But you don't interpret that soreness as a sign that you're just bad at exercising. No way. You know that muscle burn equals an upcoming adaptation in your strength. Well, the exact same biological mechanism applies to mental exercise. When you sit down to focus, that mental agitation and anxiety you feel, that is quite literally the lactate of the mind. It is the necessary friction signaling that your brain is actively undergoing neuroplasticity. It's physically rewiring itself for better focus and stress resilience.
Section 1. The neuroscience of friction.
To really understand why our brains push back so hard, we have to look at something called the default mode network, or the DMN. This is the brain circuit that handles all our self-referential thinking. It's the biological engine behind that endless me-centered chatter in your head. You know, the worrying, the ruminating, the constant planning of your day. When you sit down to meditate, you're basically asking this deeply ingrained, highly active network to just step back. And guess what? It pushes back. Big time. Quieting the DMN creates that exact agitation, that mental lactate, that causes so many folks to mistakenly throw in the towel thinking they just aren't wired for mindfulness.
Section 2. Building meta-awareness. So if we should actually expect this mental friction, what are we genuinely trying to achieve here? First off, we need to completely throw out the pervasive, unhelpful myth that mental training is all about clearing your mind. It's just not. Dr. Richie Davidson, he's a huge pioneer in the study of meditation and neuroplasticity at UC and UW-Madison. He defines the true goal as the faculty of knowing what our minds are doing. To really grasp this, think about a super relatable experience. Have you ever been reading a book, gotten 3 or 4 pages in, and suddenly realized you haven't absorbed a single word? That exact split second when you wake up and realize your mind wandered off? That spark of realization right there is meta-awareness. The goal isn't an empty head. The goal is simply catching your brain in the act of wandering.
And this brilliantly illustrates that meta-awareness isn't just some soft, abstract psychological concept. It involves a tangible physical network in your brain. When you practice catching your mind wandering, you are actively utilizing and strengthening your prefrontal cortex, your anterior cingulate, and your insula. You are quite literally physically building the brain structures responsible for sustained focus and emotional regulation.
Section 3. The Richie 5 Protocol.
Now, you might be wondering, how do we actually build this physical brain network without giving up in total frustration during that first week? Well, the absolute most important takeaway from Dr. Davidson's protocol is the number of 5. The research showed that for beginner meditators, it only takes 5 minutes a day for 30 days to see statistically significant results. Seriously, just 5 minutes. This isn't about sitting on a mountaintop for hours. Just 5 minutes a day led to massive drops in symptoms of depression, anxiety, and stress. Even more incredibly, this short protocol measurably lowered levels of IL-6. That's a pro-inflammatory cytokine directly linked to systemic inflammation in the body. Just 5 minutes can literally change your biology.
So how do we actually execute this? Let me walk you through the exact mechanics. Step 1. Pick an alert time. Sleepiness is actually a major obstacle to this practice, so whatever you do, don't try to do this as you're nodding off in bed. Step 2. Choose your setting. You can absolutely sit formally with your eyes closed if you prefer that, but you can also totally do this with your eyes wide open while doing a non-cognitively demanding task. Commuting, walking, even washing the dishes works perfectly. And step 3. Notice and return.
Your ultimate goal here is to observe the chaos without being hijacked by it. Remember, you are not trying to forcefully clear your mind. When an anxious thought pops up, or you start planning your grocery list, you do not fight the thought, and you absolutely do not judge yourself for having it. You simply notice that your mind wandered, and you gently return your attention right back to the present moment. Every single time you notice and return, you're doing a mental push-up.
Section 4. Flourishing is contagious.
Now, the benefits of this 5-minute mental workout, they don't just stop with your own biology. The source material details a really massive study involving over 800 educators. This study was specifically designed to demonstrate the real-world power of what happens when a person simply learns to regulate their own nervous system using this exact 5-minute daily practice.
So the crucial point is, the students' math scores actually improved. I mean, think about the mind-blowing magnitude of that for a second. The educators who meditated for just 5 minutes a day were, of course, way less stressed themselves, but they osmotically transmitted that internal stability directly to their classrooms. Just by regulating their own minds, they created an environment where their students actually performed better academically. Flourishing is quite literally contagious.
Let's break down exactly how this transformation happens. In your default state, you're kind of a victim of your emotions. Stimulus directly equals response. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and boom, you immediately erupt in anger. There is zero filter. But when you shift to the meta-aware state, you have self-control. You have the profound ability to actually choose your reaction. By building up that meta-awareness muscle, you step completely out of the automatic loop. You create a critical gap between a stimulus and your response to it. And according to the source material, possessing that specific gap is a massive predictor of lifelong success and health.
I want to leave you with an empowering challenge today. Will you accept the Richie 5 challenge? I strongly urge you to commit to just 5 minutes a day for the next 30 days. When you sit down and you feel that intense mental friction, that chaotic beehive buzzing in your mind, do not run from it. Embrace the lactate burn of anxiety, knowing for sure it is simply the signal that your brain is actively transforming. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. If just 5 minutes of noticing your own thoughts can physically reduce inflammation in your body and tangibly improve the performance of everyone around you, who could you become if you finally mastered the space between the world happening to you and how you choose to react to it?